That's big business. Hit town, but that's big pimpin'. My potential, that's infinite. Pin game insane. Make hits like King Griffin, a 10th inning.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 51. We made it to the end of the regular season. I'm Sean. He's Dan. You like
I don't know, Sean, if you know this about me, but I'm pretty strictly an extra guy when it comes to gum. Been doing it my whole life.
Yeah, notice.
I saw the other day and I was like, Arctic grape. I like grape. Let me give this a try. And let me tell you, Sean, written 21 pages of philosophy essays in the last couple days. And every time I need a little break, you do the 35 minutes on, 5 minutes off, whatever I need to do for my own personal sanity. I pop one of these bad boys in, Sean. It's almost like taking Adderall. Shout out to icebreakers.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely do not promote drug use on this podcast, so
No,
use those icebreakers instead.
gum, not Adderall. That's what we say here, the 10th thing.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And we everybody could use some of those to get through the long grind of a 162 game season, and we have gotten here to this point. The season's over, regular season that is. A lot of people going home, but we got some teams sticking around, and we're going to talk about the wild card series later on in the podcast. Um, First year of a best of three, which some people love, some people don't.
Right.
We'll also talk about that as well. But a lot of fun, a lot of fun. Now, Dan, when you think back on the 2022 regular season years from now, what are you going to think about? What are some things that pop into your head that just to stick with you?
I think the first thing that pops into my mind is that the Mariners broke the streak. That they finally did it. They finally made the playoffs, and it was all for the back of one of the greatest trades we've ever seen in Dynasty sports. Me grabbing Julio Rodriguez. Obviously, my sneaky pick for should get MVP votes. I don't think he's MVP, but my sneaky MVP vote consideration. And that's the first thing I'm going to think of. I think personally, the other two things I think of is just because it's more to me is Soto. I mean, he was like almost a lock for MVP coming to the season, one of those things. And and like how people felt about how good he would be this year, and he just never got it going. So kind of scary, kind of interesting because he was supposed to be. People were saying he was already the best player in baseball, myself included in that club, and he really underperformed this year. Um, I don't think we've seen something like that and a young player. We've seen it in Cody. I guess was young at the time, still young now, but not a player who had never failed before, and then just to fail that hard all season, and everyone, come on, when are you going to pick it up? When are you going to pick it up? So pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's also the season of milestones. Miguel Cabrera getting 3,000, Albert
Yep.
Pujols getting 700,
Hmm.
703, I think is what he finished with, and then Aaron Judge breaking Roger Maris's American League record, and
Yep.
in my opinion, the real home run record. But we won't get too much into that 'cause that's a pretty hot topic for some people. But yeah, just a lot of really big milestones we don't see for a while. We're not going to see someone get 3,000 hits for a long time. We're not going to see someone get
Yeah.
700 home runs for an even longer time.
Hmm.
And who knows with the whole 62 home run? It depends if the balls are juiced or not. But even people weren't hitting that a couple years ago when the balls were juiced. So just a season of a lot of milestones, both individually and throughout the sport. But man, I can't believe it's over. I remember we were doing our previews for the
Yeah.
season. I believe that we previewed or gave our predictions for World Series champions. I'm not sure if we did that or not, but
We did. Yeah, we had predictions for I believe the playoffs and the World Series. So maybe at some point I didn't do that, but at some point during this episode, I'll look it up while you're talking and I'll see if I
yeah,
can
I think I might have
compare.
mine somewhere too in my document.
Yeah.
Either way, it was a crazy season. Not much league news. I'll get into it briefly, but we're mostly going to talk about the wild card series starting on Friday. Um, I have in here the Phillies and the Mariners both ended their playoff droughts. Obviously, the Mariners much longer than the Phillies, 20 years, but the Phillies was it 10 years as well? 11 years, sorry.
Yeah.
Um, so nice to see those teams get into the postseason. Um, how the Mariners did it with the walk off from Cal Raleigh. Um, That is awesome. Place was packed.
Yeah.
Walk-off home run. Announcer was losing his mind in the booth. That's what baseball is all about. That's what sports are all about. You get a bunch of big group of people in a stadium just losing their minds over the same thing. It brings a lot of joy. I couldn't help but smile watching that. You really couldn't.
Hell of a call, too. One of the best voices in baseball. I love his voice as an announcer. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it.
What is his name?
Uh, I'm forgetting it now. I will look it up. 10th Inning Podcast Show. What do we say? We bring the information to fans. We will not lie. I'm not going to lie to you right now. I'm
No
going
fake
to
news
figure it out.
here. No fake news on this podcast.
No, none.
Also out here, somber. The Mets got swept by the Braves. Everybody could have seen that coming. Did not win the division. The Braves won the division. Also, on I guess more of a somber note as well, Tony La Russa stepping away, resigning from his post with the manager of the White Sox due to health problems, which, as Dan so eloquently put it a month or so ago, he could die of natural causes,
Yeah.
and frankly, we wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
So it's smart for him to probably retire. He had a great 2-year run back after unretiring. Yeah, so no more Tony La Russa.
Good for him and his family. Dave Sims, however, the Mariners broadcaster, will
Dave
continue
Sims.
into the next season. And I wish they don't get any time in the postseason, really, right? The home announcers. It's tough.
No, baseball I think is like the only. I mean, football you don't really have home announcers. On
Right.
TV, radio you do, but I think baseball is the only sport that the home announcers don't at least get the first round. Because the NBA and NHL, I'm pretty sure they get the first round.
Because I mean, we have some really like awesome characters in our sport as far as announcers go. And then you get to the postseason, all of a sudden, holy shit! How can Joe Buck be in 15 places at once? Is the question. It seems like
Yeah.
he's on every game, on
It,
every
it,
sport.
it
You want to kill
will
yourself.
it will sound different this year. Joe Buck won't be doing baseball as far as I know
Yeah.
with ESPN, which is crazy. So that's gonna change things a little bit. At least
Yeah.
hearing it. I must say I warmed up to Joe Buck a little bit. Maybe a hot take, but he has kind of grown on me. He's still not the best out there, but he's solid at what he does. I will give him that.
Joe Buck. I was thinking about this the other day too, actually, because I was listening to him call a game, and not a baseball game, but I was like, I guess like it's like Puig, man. I miss Puig. I do. I
Yeah,
miss Puig. You miss the guys that are like, what are you saying right now? You miss that a little bit. It adds something to
yeah,
the game. So shout out Joe Buck. He's been the butt of the joke for a lot of years, and I think that's what makes him special.
yeah. I think he knows it too, and he embraces it at this point.
Yeah.
Kind of makes fun of himself. Is there anything you else want to add for the news, Dan, before we get into some of our highlights of players this regular season, both good and bad?
No, what I'm going to do, Sean, is I'm going to first take us through our last picks to click of the regular season, our results.
I don't think it went well for me, if I remember correctly.
Well, I came into the week up one.
Yeah.
So we'll see how the season shook out. Again, this is just the regular season,
Yeah.
title. This is not, everyone cares about. And listen, I think people from New York, especially Mets fans, they don't care about the regular season title. They're going. Right. Let's take a look at. Holy shit! I mean, what a shitting on the bed. I'll tell you one question I got right. It was that one. Sean, first question: does this New York thumper Aaron Judge get to 62 this week? He sits at 61. We both said yes. We both get a point for that, so 1-1 there. But the extra additional point was, and how many does he end the season with? You said 63, Sean. They gave him the old sit, the old great season, take a sit down today. He's going to finish at 62. Exactly. And I said 64, so neither of us got an additional point. 1-1. Next question. Patrick Corbin was supposed to have 2 more starts at this point. He was sitting at 18 losses. Does he become a 20-game loser? But we changed that question to how many losses does he end up having? We both said no. To does he become a 20-game loser? So how many losses does he have, Sean? You said 19. He gets 1 more in there. And I said, a hot take, this guy's going to go on an absolute roll these next 2. And I said 18. He did finish with 19. That's a point for you there, Sean.
Let's go, Patrick.
He only had one more start, and you know, he had a tough luck loss. He went 4 2/3. 7 runs on 10 hits, 3 walks.
He was
He
right
gave
there.
he gave it. I mean, when you give up 7 runs, Sean, in less than 5 innings, you gotta hope that your offense picks you up. And unfortunately, in more occasions than not, they have not picked up Corbin this season. But I have to say, I was reading an article after it, and he is confident he's going to turn it around next year. I was shocked, not in his confidence. I think it's important to have confidence, but that everyone's so sure he's getting another shot next year. And the fact that they were talking about it like this is a 1 year thing. This has been, I would say, 2.5, 3 seasons straight where he is clearly the worst pitcher in baseball, and the contract is definitely what's getting him.
He's still under contract for next year, right?
He's got 2 more years, Sean. Probably getting paid close to 20-ish per season. He was just saying the biggest thing he said was, as a starter, always trying to go out there every 5th day is something I always wanted to do, and I did that this year, making 31 starts. You got to have cojones to say something like that at Patrick Corbin. He said, I don't think the numbers obviously were great as a team. Again, they were not great personally either. Obviously, we want to improve a lot of things, but I finished the season healthy. I know my stuff's still there, so I'm just looking forward to maybe tweaking a couple things. I think maybe you should tweak a couple things, Patrick.
I think don't stop at a couple. You go to a few, and then 10.
Yeah. His next statement was, I just got to be more consistent, try and be more competitive, throw quality pitches, maybe try to finish guys off when I get ahead of the count. And here's what I'm seeing, Sean. I'm seeing a sign of a guy understanding how to pitch in Major League Baseball. And if we take it from the standpoint of maybe this is his first time even understanding what pitching in baseball is, this is in a bad season. He stayed healthy, made his starts, and maybe he tweaks a couple things, and he's right there.
Could you reread that last statement again?
I just got to try to be more competitive, throw quality pitches, and maybe try to finish guys off when I get ahead of them in the count.
And then he said something about being consistent, right?
Yeah, he's got to be more consistent. Yeah.
I will argue that he was consistent this year.
He was he was the most consistent pitcher in baseball.
Yes.
He also said he thought it was just a combination of a lot of things. Gave up a lot of homers, but it was just a tough season, and he's trying to learn from it and move on. And I do echo that Patrick sentiment. It was a strange season. Although, again, I don't know how strange it was given you haven't been good in a little bit. But I'm rooting for Patrick Corbin. I'm putting at least $1 that he wins Cy Young next year.
Future red hot
right now. Yeah. Anyway, Sean, you got a point there. Moving on to our next one. Mets and Braves were locked into the tightest division race in baseball. Probably ended up at the widest margin, if you ask me.
One game, all right, one game.
Yeah, you said they. I got a point there. Let's move on. Judge was in the lead for the Triple Crown at the end of the season. At the end of last week, was going to be in the Triple. Judge was in the running for the Triple Crown at the end of last week. Was he going to be in the lead at the end of this week, Sean? You said no. I said yes. The answer was no. So another point to you there, Sean. And the last question. K. Schwarbs. Okay? As of right now, you have 3 points this week, Sean, and I have 2 going into the last question. Making the season total 32-32. So I need a drum roll for this last question right here. Kyle Schwarber, our home run king, Sean. We already knew he was going to lead the league in Ks going into the week. But how many did he finish with? You said 203. I said 199. He avoids the 200 mark. Sean, he had 1 strikeout today, bringing his season total to 200 strikeouts on the nose. Neither of us get a point. And in classic fashion, 32-32 goes the season record. How do you feel about nothing mattering in the last 50 weeks, it feels like, Sean?
Frankly, it's very on brand. Yeah. I'm not surprised by it in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to the postseason. What happens if we tie in the postseason? We'll figure that out. We'll figure that out.
We will have a tiebreaker somehow. I think we both order something from Uber Eats and we take times until we get it right. It's gonna be something like that.
Maybe we'll MLB the Show action, game.
MLB the Show. We could stream a little MLB the Show game.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. Sean, I was gonna cut this segment out, but given it's everyone's favorite segment, I had to at least mention something for King Stats of the Week here. I took off yesterday. I had a lot of work I was doing. Again, the 21 pages was due this week. So I got myself right. Sometimes as an athlete, shout out Naomi Osaka, you got to take your mental health and yourself first. I know I'm an elite athlete, but you got to understand you got to put yourself first. And in that moment, I had to. I got a call today while watching the greatest pitcher of all time throw a 5-inning, 1-hit, 9K performance. That man is Clayton Kershaw. You were unfamiliar with the pitchers in baseball. It was my coach, not your coach, not Leif Allenberg. My coach here, Andy. I pick up the phone. He goes, Dan, you're going to be available Thursday, right? I say, yeah, Andy, I'll be there. Like, all right, you're getting the start. So, I mean, it's the fairy tale storybook ending. I am getting the playoff start, Sean. 1-game playoff series. We're basically doing the play-in. We finished in the 3rd seed. If we win this game, we got a shot at playing next Tuesday. And he's throwing me on the bump. So I'm excited, Sean. I'm really happy that I feel like I've been able to contribute to the team in a meaningful way and be given this honor. And I'm ready to win. I feel good. I'm
very proud of you. I know you're going to absolutely just nail it on Thursday, tomorrow.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Obviously, you guys will know. What happened. But that being said, Sean, we got some things to talk about the wrap up of the season. And what a crazy season we had. There's been some overachievers, some underachievers. And we want to give you guys some of the biggest sways in baseball. Sean, who was your biggest breakout player this year?
For me, I had ex-Met Andres Jimenez. I know he was a top 100 prospect at a time, and he came up with the Mets during the COVID 2020 season. Did well, but hit 265. Didn't have a lot of pop. Played solid defense. He honestly looked like he was I don't want to bring this guy up, but I have to. A Luis Castillo type player in the sense where he'll get singles. He'll play a solid defense. Yeah, I know. I brought this on myself. But this year, he hit for an average. He hit right at 300 on the dot. 17 home runs, which is far more than I think he ever was projected to have in a season. 69 RBIs, which is very, very nice. 20 stolen bases, an 842 OPS, and an extremely solid defender at second and short. Could win a Gold Glove, maybe not necessarily this year, but somewhere down the line in his career. Really was, aside from Jose Ramirez, with the catalyst of that Guardians lineup. And just really was an important player, not for what he did this year, but also he was one of the main guys in the Lindor trade, Carrasco going back to the Mets. And he's played well this year, which means he'll probably be traded next year. You don't know. But yeah, he was definitely a breakout star for me, all-star this year as well. I didn't expect him to do this well this quickly. I know last year he did decent. Didn't do as well as this year, obviously. But I think he's a cornerstone in that lineup. And also, Ahmed Rosario did well for the Guardians this year as well. They got a nice young team there. Yeah, he surprised me. I mean, with the power he had.
Yeah, I gotta say that's one of those rare trades. It looks like it's working out pretty well for both sides at this point. Lindor put up a really great season. To be honest with you, both of them, I think, will receive MVP votes this year. I don't think either of them will be close to an MVP. But Jimenez is one of the highest WARs in Major League Baseball because of that defense and offensive production. And similarly with Lindor, if I just said Lindor, I meant Jimenez. They both have great offensive and defensive production this year. That has really been a catalyst for their team. Jimenez was definitely on my docket, but I said he's the obvious choice. I got to have a backup, Sean. And looking into this is the one that surprised me. I didn't even realize this. Yandy Diaz with a breakout season at the age of 31. Don't know if you tuned into it. I don't. I wouldn't be surprised if you know, because I had no idea. 296 average, Sean. 401 on base this year. 9 homers, 57 RBIs. So definitely the slugging is down at 423. But I mean, you take a look at all of his expected statistics, and his exit velocity is up. His weighted on base is 94th percentile. He's not striking out, Sean. His K percentage fell from 15.7 to 10.8. His walk percentage is at 14%. You know what that means, Sean? He's walking more than he strikes out, and by a decent clip as well. We love that here on the 10th Inning Podcast.
Yeah.
He's just been an absolute on-base machine, walking more than he strikes out, and hitting at or above 300 for most of the year. He's ended up being the leadoff guy in that Rays lineup, and not something you would imagine for a guy like Yandy Diaz, right? That doesn't really come to mind, but he certainly changed his approach and became a very different but really productive hitter this year. So shout out to Yandy Diaz for that. Interesting to see in the postseason if he keeps the fire going and turns some heads. I don't think people realize really how good he is. Cause I'm trying to think, like, why even the Rays? How had the Rays even made the playoffs? They always have shit offense, but somehow do it, and it's just getting seasons like this from guys like Diaz. I'm trying to see here what he was at last year: 256, 353 with 13 bombs. So he really did the zig when everyone else was zagging. Sean, he turned his bat around to hit for average, and it worked.
Pretty much the opposite of what the Rays typically do with their players.
Right.
I'm surprised he didn't go to Alejandro Kirk there, to be honest with you.
I have Kirk and Julio are definitely obvious picks. Julio even more so probably. My thought with that is they're both rookies, and especially with Julio, not that people didn't expect it, but it was expected of him to be good. Not this good, year one. And Kirk, I feel like everyone going into the year, they thought he was probably going to win the MVP, so it was weird to call it a breakout,
Absolutely.
Moving on to kind of a little bit more, unless do you have a pitcher for the breakout side?
I do. Not necessarily, breakout. He had a very good year this year, but he also had a good year last year. I just want to talk about Alek Manoah. Basically, he is the ace of that staff. I'll get into some of the other pitchers on that staff a little bit later in the pod. But he's going to be obviously getting game one start for the Blue Jays in the wild card series. But I feel like he still doesn't get talked about enough for what he did this year. Let's give you the basic stats. 16-7, still nice to get wins. ERA of 2.24, just shy of 200 innings pitched, which, years ago, 200 innings pitched was pretty common, but nowadays you're not really seeing that number a lot. So he was on the field, 180 strikeouts, not too shabby at all. And he was just the model of consistency for the Blue Jays this year. Last year he had another solid year with 9-2 and a 3.22 ERA. That's nothing to sneeze at either. But I think that they needed him, the Blue Jays. They really didn't have that great of a rotation. And also what I like about him, he's got a little fire to him. I know him and the Yankees had a few run-ins this year. He's jawing with Donaldson, I believe, and Judge.
Yeah.
Which I always love to see that from a pitcher because that just kind of adds some more, intensity to them with their presence on the mound. But Alek Manoah, I feel like is a young pitcher who really could continue to rise up through the league. And he's definitely going to get some Cy Young votes this year, which is really nice to see. And he's only 24 years old, so.
Right. He coming into the year, I think he was probably pretty close to my top 15 pitcher list. If he didn't, I don't think he made it exactly, but I think he was on the outside looking in. And I think by next season, he's going to be pretty much on everyone's. So definitely took another big step forward, kind of a prove it season, and he definitely proved it. So congratulations to him for that.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go with a guy that I traded this past off season for a pick. Couldn't even tell you exactly what pick he turned into, Sean. But I could tell you whose team he's on. You have any guesses? It's someone here.
Somebody and behind you in the picture?
Oh no, I'm sorry. Somebody on your team, I guess.
I don't have no idea.
Tristan McKenzie. Tristan
Oh,
McKenzie
that's a yeah.
had a good season this year. Another guy who was, somewhat highly touted prospect. I don't want to say gave up on him last year because he had a decent year last year as well. But he really turned in a great year this year. 2.96 ERA, Shawnee, over 31 games, 30 games started. Guess he had a little relief role there for some odd reason. God bless his soul. Almost 200 innings pitched, almost 200 strikeouts, and he really took a huge step forward. He's one of the leaders in their rotation now. We'll have a big opportunity to kind of prove it on the big stage now in the postseason. Still 25 years old. He dropped his walk rate, which was the big thing. The reason I was, again, not off of him last year, but the reason I was concerned for his future and I traded him. 11.7% walk percentage last year, Sean. Got it down to 5.9, which is manageable. Actually, a pretty good walk percentage, especially for his age. So he really ended up turning, I won't say turning around, but developing into a really great starter for them. And that's what that is what the Guardians do, that whole organization, turning pitchers into absolute studs.
I like that idea.
What is your disappointing player this year?
I have two batters and one pitcher. One of the batters is Javier Baez. I didn't want to go into it too much because we rip him enough on this podcast. Had a miserable year. The next guy, I wanted to do Juan Soto for this, but then I saw his OPS and his OPS plus. OPS plus is 150. So I'm like, how disappointing. I mean, his numbers aren't great aside from that. Like his average and RBIs, home runs, and all that. So I was like, you know what? I'll pass on that.
Yeah.
I went a different route. I went with Matt Chapman. Now, I have always thought he's a better player than what he shows. I've always really liked him, but I think when he was on the A's that he had a higher ceiling offensively. Defensively, he's right up there with Nolan Arenado for being the best in the game, also at third base. But offensively, he's fluctuated. He's a guy who strikes out a lot. I mean, he struck out 202 times last year, 170 times this year. He doesn't hit for much of an average aside from 1 year in 2018, where 278. He finished 229 this year. His OPS was just shy of 800 at 758. OPS plus 116. So I mean, not terrible numbers, not great. He still had 27 bombs, 76 ribbies, and his defense has a lot of value to him. But I just don't feel like he is a player who I would necessarily want on my team from the offensive standpoint. I know he kind of fits in that Blue Jays lineup, a lot of swing and miss guys. But I feel like he has all the tools. He just hasn't been able to put it together quite yet. But I mean, I also toyed with Marcus Semien, but he actually had a decent end of the year. He finished like over 250 average and I think 70 something RBIs and 26 home runs, which is crazy because he hit his first home run was like June.
So he had a pretty decent second half.
Yeah, absolutely. So, those are the guys that I went with and came to mind.
Yeah, and I mean, you didn't even mention any of the three guys that came to mind for me. I think just shows there was a good amount of people that kind of disappointed from the offensive side this year. The first guy is Jesse Winker. I mean, Jesse was really supposed to that was such a big trade for them, bringing him over. He was supposed to crush right-handed pitching. A guy who had hit 300 almost every single year in his career so far, and he just really, I don't want to say shit the bed, but he kind of shit the bed there in Seattle. Obviously, they were able to make it up by bringing Julio up. But for a guy who doesn't play great defense, and again doesn't hit left-handed pitching, he really needed to step up at least against righties. And again, his career average is different now, but the last couple seasons before that, 305, he hit 299 and 298 in a couple other seasons as well. But he hit 219 this year, Shawnee, with 14 bombs. Again, last year, 305 with 24 in 110 games. So, his on-base percentage was basically around 375 to 400 every other season in his career as well, and his on-base fell to 344. He did walk an okay amount, and it kept that. I mean, 344 on base is honestly not too bad, especially compared to a 219 average. So he walked but that's about it. He didn't hit, and he did get really unlucky this year as well. I don't want to say he didn't. His BABIP was really, really low, but Jesse Winker was someone that came to mind. Quickly, just go over Nick Castellanos. I mean, that didn't work out at all. One of the the best hitters in baseball as of last year and the last couple of years, and he really had a down year in Philly. Again, they were able to make the playoffs again as well. One team that didn't make the playoffs with their guy struggling, Sean, Yasmani Grandal.
Mm.
How high were me and Leif, and I think pretty much everyone on that podcast with Yasmani? I think I had him as my number one catcher possibly going into this year for fantasy purposes at least.
Yeah.
And he fell off. I mean, last year was a really great year for Yasmani, and we're talking 5 homers and a 202 average with a 301 on base this year. Walk percentage even fell from 23% to 12%. I mean, his eye it really looks like his eye just left. He wasn't making good contact, and he wasn't waiting for his pitch. I mean, his strikeout percentage was the same at 21%. But I guess he just wasn't getting pitched around is really probably why his walk percentage got cut in half. He just was not making good contact. At 3 years old, you start to think that maybe that this is pretty much it for Yasmani. I feel bad because I think he was one of the better catchers, if not the best catcher in baseball like last year. His defense was also phenomenal, and this year's defense plummeted as well. So, sorry.
Yeah.
I feel bad for saying it. It's like that's a tough year for Yasmani.
I mean, that goes to show you how difficult it is to be a consistently successful baseball player.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, especially the catching position. I mean, it's tough. He was one of their better players, like best catcher in baseball. I believe I had him like third or fourth in my rankings, and everybody thought that was a little. Even I thought that was a little too high or a little low. I mean,
Yeah.
and to think about the Mariners and the Phillies, how much better they'd be if those guys performed,
Right.
up to their expectations. I think both of those guys will bounce. I think actually all 3 of those guys will bounce back next year. I don't think Grandal will get back to the level he was in 2021, but I think he finds a little happy medium in between because I think he's definitely a better player than what he showed this year. I think the White Sox just had kind of an anomaly this year where just everything just seemed to go wrong. I mean, it seemed like everybody was getting injured. No one was really performing up to the level they were supposed to perform at. So I maybe just kind of rubbed off on everybody. So
Yeah. Not to harp on it too much, but just quickly to go over what he did last year. 93 games last year, 99 this year. Last year, 23 homers and a 420 on base percentage, Sean. I think it was the highest in baseball other than Soto. This year, 5 homers in more games and a 301 on base. So that is a loss of about almost 20 homers and 120 points in on base. So
yeah,
it's got to be the biggest drop off I've ever seen season to season. But I agree. I really hope they do all bounce back.
yeah.
Before we go on to the pitcher, well, actually, no, we can go to the pitcher. Do you have a pitcher?
I do.
Go for it.
I'm really staying with the Blue Jays tonight. Jose Barrios had just a god awful year. Somehow finished with a 12-7 record, which makes 0 sense. Tristan McKenzie had 11-11 record.
Yeah.
So that's why wins and losses at this point don't really matter as much. But I mean, the Blue Jays, I don't remember the trade exactly, but they gave up a lot of assets to get Barrios. And at the time, I was like, I don't understand this. He has had an ERA about 4 his whole career. He's never really been someone who's a horse, who's ahead of a rotation. They gave up a lot. They signed to a large extension this offseason, too. I don't remember the figures, the duration of the contract. But I don't see it. I don't see what people see in him. I really don't. He had just a brutal year, over a 5 ERA. Gave up a career high in hits, 199 hits, 100 earned runs. I mean, no stats in here were pretty in his baseball reference. And it's just that's killer for the Blue Jays when they have a lot of young players that are going to need to be getting contracts, extensions, and he's just sitting there collecting a big fat check. when he has an ERA north of 5. That's just major disappointment for him as well as the Blue Jays. And I don't see what people see in him, to be quite honest with you.
Well, here's what I'm going to say, Sean, is that he made 32 starts this year and he finished the year healthy. And I think what you gotta say is you gotta be happy with that. You know, I don't think the production at the end of the day really matters. I think what matters is that he made 32 starts and he finished the year healthy.
I mean, it's impressive. That is impressive.
That's extremely. I think, generally speaking, he's been pretty overrated his entire career, or overhyped. I mean, he's a two-time All-Star. I think for some reason the perception of him has been better than what he has been. Obviously, he came up as a pretty highly touted prospect with Minnesota and was the leader of that staff the entire time he was there. But he was the leader of that staff because they haven't had good pitching. I mean, like, he was just, the ace on a team that didn't have an ace. Talk about his first year, obviously in 14 games started. He had an 8.02 ERA. Second year close to 4, third year close to 4. Basically, he's been at, around 4 his entire career, except for 2019 was okay with a 3.68. But I mean, that's, nothing crazy. And last year he finished at 3.52. I'd say that's solid. Excuse the burp, of course. But it's a number 2. It's definitely a number 2, number 3 guy. Not a number 1 like he's been treated. And just to clear up what the trade was, I believe it was Simeon Wood Richardson and Austin Martin, who at the time, Austin Martin was like a top 5 prospect in baseball. Austin Martin has really fell down prospect pipeline rankings, but that was a really big haul for Barrios at the moment. And Sean, what happened here is going to work out because my most disappointing pitcher was also Jose Barrios. 2 questions. First question is, saw something on MLB Network. We got Manoah going game 1. We got Gausman going game 2. We'll talk about this later, but Barrios or Stripling? Chicken strip or Barrios for game 3? Who you throwing? Should finish with the. I mean, he finished with an ERA right around 3. Former Dodger, he's got the postseason experience. But people are saying you got to go Barrios. We're paying him so much.
God!
What the paying you so much? You know what we're paying you to do? We're paying you to fucking win. Like as a GM, you can't be afraid to make moves that if they don't work out, look bad because you're paying a certain player a certain amount, man. But you know what's going to look bad? When he blows up game 3 and loses you the series, and then they say, why are you paying him that much?
Yeah.
It's such I'll never understand that. But instead of me going on about my most disappointing pitcher, I'm going to do a quick little thing here. I looked up the highest overachievers and underachievers, Shawnee, as far as like expected statistics versus actual. And I just wanted to read out a couple names real quick. So there were 3 guys that overachieved clearly the most out of everyone this year. Offensively, these are all offensively. Any guesses for someone who really overachieved? We're talking batting average and slugging wise.
Would Jeff McNeil be on there?
Jeff McNeil overachieved a little bit. He did. He didn't make my top 3. Top 3, Paulie Goldschmidt, Sean.
Really?
317 average with a 578 slugging were his statistics. His expected stats, 261, 482.
Wow.
So quite a difference. He was the biggest difference in expected weighting on base to actual. I love Goldie. I'm not saying anything. That's just what the expected stats say. It's not the end all be all. People play differently than them all the time. Jose Altuve, he hit 300 this year with a 533 slugging. Expected 269 with a 440 slugging. That's pretty much what he did last year. So to me, that would indicate I think Altuve really did overachieve it quite a bit. And to expect more of a 270 hitter next year. And lastly, talk about the St. Louis Cardinals here. Arenado. Actual 292, 533. Expected 266, 446. Much more in line with his first season in St. Louis as well. So interesting to see. Just thought that was Some pretty interesting numbers. And the underachievers. Any big underachievers? Anything you can think of?
Corey Seager.
Woo! Shawnee hit it on the nose. The number 2 guy. 245, 455 is what Corey did this year. Expected stats said he should have been at 283 with a 510 slugging. So definitely underachieved quite a bit. Number 1 guy, Ryan Mountcastle, a guy who made the hitter to watch a couple weeks because I thought it finally was going to break out. Really never happened. He hit 247 with a 421 slugging. I'm sorry. His expected was 275 with a 508, which is pretty solid numbers. So watch out for Mountcastle last year to see if, for next year, I'm sorry, I'm mixing up my words today, to see if he picks it up. And Sean, you're going to like this. One of the guys that underachieved the most is Yordan Alvarez. Let me read this to you. His average this year was 304, and his slugging was 612. Now, Sean, you asked me, Dan, how could he have possibly underachieved? Well, his expected batting average was 328, and his expected slugging was 672. Actually was one of the highest differences in on base and weighted on base, and expected weighted on base. Interestingly enough. So just because you're doing well doesn't mean you're not underachieving, and vice versa. God bless you, Yordan Alvarez. Could be a sneaky MVP vet for next year. How do you feel about that right there? Any comments?
The Goldschmidt and Arenado one.
God bless you.
Thank you. Arenado one is interesting because I was surprised at how good of a year he had this year because he kind of been on the decline a little bit. Same with Goldschmidt to a degree. But the Yordan Alvarez one is just absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, I was looking through, and like usually they follow a similar trend. They didn't perform as good this year. They should have. I'm always going to see Yordan in there. So, it's supposed to have like 25 higher points than average. I'm like, what are we talking about right now? Yeah, Yordan is apparently had a really hit the ball really hard this year.
Well, imagine if the Dodgers never traded him, huh?
Oh, Shawnee, I would love it. Talk about MVP, Sean, real quick. We're just going to go over our picks for the awards. We're not going to spend too much time on it, but just let you know what we're thinking. Who was the MVP of the American League, Sean?
Aaron Judge.
It's Aaron Judge. That's all we're going to say about it. I don't think there really needs to be any more conversation. National League. What are we thinking?
The overachiever, Paul Goldschmidt.
And, I tend to agree-ish, but I had to give some kind of devil's advocate here because I knew it was going to be Paul. I'm going with a guy that, frankly, I don't really like. I'm going to put you on the spot again. I know you love guessing games. Who do I not really like that could potentially win MVP this year in the National League? Former Dodger.
Former Dodger?
Former Dodger. Former Dodger that I don't like. That should narrow it down, but also a little sneaky.
Machado.
To be honest with you, Machado's hitting stats are not too far off from Goldschmidt. And Machado was one of the best defenders in baseball this year, while Goldschmidt's defense kind of fell off. Machado, 32 homers, 102 RBIs, 100 runs, hit 298 with a 367 on base, and played one of the best third base in baseball this year. Obviously, a very important position, and had a really tough job with like some interim shortstops on the left side of the infield with him, Ha-Sung Kim and other people like that, because Tatis was either injured or taking steroids and suspended. Additionally, like I said, comparable offense, much better defense, and in my opinion, a much less conducive situation for success. I mean, St. Louis, I feel like the vibes are just there. You know what I mean? Like St. Louis is like, there's no issues in St. Louis. That's a well-run organization. You're gonna succeed if you're there. Like they know what they're doing. That's why they overachieve. San Diego, holy fucking shit. How do you if you're a player in San Diego, it's tough. And Manny was the one that kept ties. He was the one consistent guy. Mr. Plays 162. with no other guy on the left side of the infield. His star ends up being injured, doing things he shouldn't have been doing, riding dirt bikes or whatever, and then takes steroids. His first baseman is Hosmer is on the decline. A lot of the stuff that they're trying to do, bringing guys in, is not working. It's not really a cohesive unit. And he really had to step up, be the leader, offensively and defensively. And then they bring guys in at the end that don't work out with Soto and Bell. They've been fine, but really don't work out as well. And he's just kind of produced throughout the whole thing. And I don't think there's any shot that they're a playoff team without Manny Machado on that team.
Oh yeah.
So I got to give Manny Machado a shout out. I think he really, as far as value, I think he really was the leader of that team, which is crazy to think, especially given what he was like in LA. But I guess when you're forced to be a leader, you see what you're really made of. In LA, he definitely was not forced to be the leader of that clubhouse. And I think he's done a really good job stepping up.
Yeah, make a good point because he had a couple underwhelming seasons with the Padres before this one. Excuse the sneeze again.
No, God bless. God bless. God bless. And post, God bless.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cy Young, Shawnee. Who's the AL Cy Young? How about we skip it? How about we not even name the AL Cy Young?
There we go. There we go. There we go.
NL Cy Young. So who do you like?
Sandy Alcantara.
Yeah, man. I would love to say anyone but. I'd love to say Julio. I'd love to say Clayton. That's what I'd love to say. Let me tell you, Clayton should get Cy Young votes this year. I don't want to talk about it. I'm crazy. Hell, 2.28 over 130 innings. Tell me that's not a good year out of Clay.
That is a good year. That is a good year. You just didn't have the innings there.
130 innings, 2.28 though. I mean, better year than the ground. I'll tell you that. Better year than the ground.
Yeah, the ground missed most of it.
Yeah, I'm just saying better year. 2.28 over 130. You take that every day. Yeah, Alcantara was just the best pitcher in baseball by a wide margin, just based off 8 innings. He was the horse of all horses this year, close to 230, right? That's an old kind of thing that we're used to.
28, I think, is where he finished at. They shut him down.
God bless his soul, man. Thank God they're not in the postseason. I think he would have had Tommy John. He still might. Rookie of the year, Sean. Who's your AL Rookie of the Year?
Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah, who but? He's like W.B. Mason out there. I don't know where I was going with that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, that was bad. NL.
Who but W.B. Mason? And Michael Harris.
Okay, I was close on Strider.
Yeah,
definitely a Brave, and I'm also going Harris. The defense he plays as well, and he's done it. He's done it for a long time, pretty much almost the entire year now. I mean, he came up a month into the season,
straight from Double-A, I think too.
Yeah, he's really. Harris has had a phenomenal season. He's going to be fun to watch in the playoffs as well. We've made it, Sean. We've made it to the meat and/or potatoes. The wild card series previews. Where do you want to start?
I have the Mariners and Blue Jays first. This is a very interesting series for me.
Okay.
I like both these teams a lot.
And it's what we wanted last year, remember?
I know.
This is what we wanted.
It's going to be the Rogers Center. The place is going to be rocking.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to pick a team, I'd prefer the Mariners to win.
Okay.
But you can't be upset either way. I want to see postseason baseball in Seattle because I want to see that place rocking because, oh, boy, they are going to be into it.
Yeah. Seattle's a good sports town. Don't forget that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm saying to the fans at home, bring the Supersonics back.
Oh, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. They got a hockey team. They got a football team. They got a baseball team. Just need a basketball team.
That's it.
But they're kind of interesting. The Mariners don't hit a lot of home runs. The Blue Jays hit only home runs.
Right.
The Mariners have a better rotation. They also got Luis Castillo going in game one, which he's their ace. Also, that trade's worked out very well so far, by the way.
Yeah.
The Blue Jays after Manoah, it gets a little shaky as we just.
You don't like KG? I like KG. No, Okay.
No, he's good. He doesn't move the needle for me.
Who are the Mariners throwing? They got Castillo, Ray. They're going through, I guess.
Yeah,
Is he lined up? And
yeah.
then who are they going three?
I
I guess Logan Gilbert. It's
I
gotta be
had
Logan Gilbert. I can pause it. Yeah, I think it's probably Logan Gilbert. It's gonna take game three, which is honestly, I like Gilbert more than Stripling. Ray versus KG. I think that's pretty. I mean, Robbie Ray versus Kevin Gosman is kind of cool, right? 'Cause those are the two. They got what the exact same deal, I think.
yeah. If not the same, it was very similar.
Yeah, it might have been one last year, but for the same AAV. Kind of similar stories. Had so-so careers, but with good underlying numbers, especially good strikeout potential for both of them, high ERAs. Then they have that breakout season and go on the market for the both of them. So that'll be a fun matchup. I got Manoah game one. Manoah's a playoff pitcher, man. He's a game. He's just got that has that dog in him, if you
Yes.
will. Uh, I got Ray coming back in Seattle, beating KG. Again, I don't know if it's in Seattle. I just mean for Seattle.
Yeah.
Um, and then Logan Gilbert cleaning up. I got Gilby cleaning up. I got the Mariners.
Okay. I have the Blue Jays in 3.
Okay. I think like off paper I have the Blue Jays in three, but looking at the pitching, I didn't realize the Mariners had as much of an advantage as I think they do. Because I mean, really, I have them losing game one, and Castillo's certainly capable of winning a ball game. But yeah, I got the M's taking 2 and 3.
Yeah. I have the Jays in 3, but I really could go either way on this. It'll be that. This is probably the series I'm looking forward to the most, aside from the Mets Padres one. I
Yeah,
think this is you got two teams that really haven't been all that successful in the past 20 years. The Blue Jays have had a couple good years in there. But I think everybody's just happy to see a different team in the postseason with the Mariners.
right.
Uh, get some fresh blood in there, and they have a very exciting young team. And I hope that this is the first of many postseasons for them, um, because I do enjoy watching them. I really do.
Jared Kelenich's going to be a superstar by next year. He's
Imagine if
fine.
Jesse Winker and Jared Kelenic actually had the years they were supposed to.
I
This
know
team
their outfield would have been nuts.
they would have beat or won the division from the Astros.
Yeah, but I mean that's why I say J Rod really should get MVP consideration. Because I mean, really looking at their roster, Winker was probably supposed to be their best offensive player. And I mean, he was damn near their worst. And Kelnick didn't work out again. I mean, we came into a season where like you got Mick Haniger. How many outfielders do you need? We were saying.
Yeah, yeah.
And all of a sudden, J Rod's like the guy. J Rod carried that team in the outfield. But moving on, what's the next series you wanna tickle your peach with?
I have the other American League series, the Rays and the Guardians.
Similar clubs,
Yes.
just similar organizations,
I don't imagine the ratings will be great for this one.
right? I'll be interested though. I mean, these are two analytically driven teams that shouldn't be good every year and are. God bless. They do what they can with a small payroll, and they're in the playoffs, right? They're there for a reason. And the Guardians have been there pretty much every year between 2014 and 2022, 2015. They've missed a couple seasons, but I mean, they've been right at the precipice of this wild card area. And the Rays pretty much in the same boat. Who do you got?
This is a tough one. I have the Rays winning in 3 just because the Cleveland team seems to be allergic to success in the postseason since they lost in the World Series.
Yeah,
They got swept by the Astros one year. They got swept by the Yankees another year. I think they had reverse swept by the Yankees one year.
yeah,
They kind of they're one of those teams. They have a nice regular season, like Tampa, cute regular season. Oh, that's nice, good story. They get to the postseason, and they usually get buzzed down by the large market, big payroll teams. Um, Obviously, this is a unique matchup between two teams that probably people couldn't name more than 5 players on each team, especially Tampa Bay. Um, I have the Rays taking it, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it go the other way. I also have this one going 3 games. I think these are two very evenly matched teams. Although the Guardians are very hot right now. They're 20-6 in their last 26 games, or I believe I think it was 26. They're hot. They came in. They finished strong, and you got to watch out for those teams because those can sometimes be the most dangerous teams in the postseason. With that being said, I think Tampa Bay still takes it though.
I love it. I mean, looking at the pitching matchups, you're gonna have McClanahan against Bieber. I think Shane. I think Shane wins that one. Um, they both named Shane.
Yes.
Baby. I think Shane McClanahan wins that one. To be honest with you, I think Bieber falls. Game 2, we got Glass now, probably McKenzie. It's probably going to be Glass now, McKenzie. I just saw Glass now last week. With Zeke pitching in Durham. Every time I go to a Durham Bulls game, we got a major leaguer there. Let me tell you, Glass now looked good. Glass now looked really good. I can't really say this because it's, of course, but if Glass now is on, I think the Rays taking it too, just based off pitching. But if Glass now is not worked up to his full workload and like he's just not really back from injury, and McKenzie can. If the Indians win, gosh damn it. I apologize. It's late and I just can't stop saying it. If the Guardians win game 2, I have them taking the series with a Stephen Kwan walk-off single up the middle, just to be clear. And if they don't win, they lose in 2. Very confusing. Let's go Guardians.
Okay. All right. Over to the National League now. We got a series that's going to literally give me a heart attack. The Mets and the Padres. I have the Mets going in 3, but yeah, that means absolutely nothing.
Going home or going?
No, winning in 3. I wouldn't be surprised. This is going to be a very well pitched series. Of course, I say that again, and it's probably going to be 10-9 every single game. In game 1, it probably will be DeGrom, but there is the chance that they go Scherzer. They win game 1. They go Bassett 2, try and win the series, and then have DeGrom for game 1 of the DS. Now, that is a little bit tempting fate, but I imagine so. DeGrom starting game 1. I think Yu Darvish has been the announced starter of the Padres in game 1.
Scherzer's been announced for game 1.
Really?
Oh, at least he's slated as far as MLB.com. That's a pretty. I guess it's a pretty verifiable thing. But as of right now, Scherzer is slated for game 2.
Okay. All right.
No one is slated for game 2 yet.
I think if the Mets lose, DeGrom goes 2. They have to. And if they win, I think Bassett goes game 2. Either way, it's going to be a well-pitched series. Padres are looking pretty hot as they come down the stretch, which is terrifying for me. I think if I was a fan of either one of these teams, I'd be very interested in this series. I really would. It's going to be a highly contested series, I think.
Here's my opinion. I think the Mets going with Scherzer in game 1 is really messing it up. I think that's Buck Showalter doing what he does, putting his not best pitcher on the mound in a moment where he should.
I love Buck. I fully trust Buck. I really do.
This is .054 Zach Britton in the bullpen with Humala Jimenez throwing 5 pitches to give up 3 runs. I don't think Max Scherzer wins a playoff game. Max Scherzer is the worst pitcher in baseball. It's been proven time and again. Darvish absolutely. Max Scherzer gets blown up game 1. If DeGrom goes, I think the Mets win the series. Obviously, right now, Scherzer going. I think they lose game 1. Game 2, if they go Bassett or DeGrom, I think they win game 2. If DeGrom goes game 3, I think he shits the bed, and Juan Soto ends up getting him a couple times for 2 homers in the game. Just to be clear, if DeGrom is going in game 3. If Bassett's going game 3, if Bassett's going game 3, there's probably not a game 3. I think the only game the Mets win is the game that Bassett pitches. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
Really? Well, they all shit the bed in the Braves series, so.
I really think DeGrom should pitch first. The Mets win the series if DeGrom opens up and just shoves. I think having Scherzer go is not a good idea. I actually don't like Scherzer as a pitcher. I don't like him.
You
I
know,
just
we didn't know. We couldn't tell. We really couldn't.
I just no, but I feel like some people think I'm joking. I'm dead serious. I think Scherzer gets blown up. He's terrible. 2.29 ERA. Whoa.
Ah,
You know what Clayton's is, Sean? You know what Clayton's here?
2.28.
2 point. I mean, who's the better pitcher? They got basically the same innings, and they say Scherzer's better. He's never been better. Point 2 a year. Kershaw's always
Ah,
better. He's always better. His last start, Sean. 5-2. Can't even get to 6 innings, man. 4 earned runs, 2 homers off
didn't
of him.
Kirsch go 5 innings today?
Yeah, threw 70 pitches because it was his last tune-up before probably starting game one. 5 innings, 1 hit, 9 strikeouts. That is a little bit different, Sean. This guy sucks. Sucks. I need the Mets to win because I want to go to LA to watch the Mets and Dodgers play. Because
That would be fantastic.
Liam's out there in LA, and I will go. If the Mets and Dodgers are playing, Mets win the wild card, you're gonna see a vlog from me and out in LA. You heard it here first.
That'd be fun.
But seeing what I'm seeing, they're letting Scherzer pitch. I don't think it's gonna happen. Padres in 3.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to the Phillies Cardinals. Now, this is a series I think that's going to be the only one that goes two games. I think the Cardinals will win this. I really do. Um,
God bless you. So
excuse the sneeze. Thank you. Uh, the Phillies, man, they got to the postseason. They pretty much backed their way in. The Brewers kind of fell apart at the end. But a nice story for them. Made the playoffs first time in a while. I think that the Cardinals are just better equipped for the series. They got more consistent offense, and you shut down Schwarber, which all you gotta do is throw pitches out of the strike zone of swing, and that's a good chunk of the offense. Um, the Phillies do have Nola and Zach Wheeler, which are two very solid pitchers, but the Cardinals, I just feel like everything's going their way right now. That this is just going to continue in that direction.
who who are the Cardinals throwing?
I mean, Wainwright could honestly get game one.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Cardinals guy. I think they're crazy overachievers, not even just because of the Paul Arenado thing. I think the Phillies actually sweep this in 2.
Okay, all right.
I think the Cardinals have better defense. They're a better baseball team, but I think in a 3-game series, I think Nola. I mean, I just think Nola and Wheeler just move through, just absolutely move through. I don't think they have a shot in goddamn hell in the next series after that. But I think they sweep the Cards.
Okay, all right. I mean, we shall see.
We shall see. In fact, yes,
We shall.
that was a good one, Sean.
Yeah.
I was. Who do you think is going to be the wild card series hero? Who's going to be the headline? Who's going to be in the headlines?
I think Jose Ramirez,
Jose.
which goes against my pick of the Rays, but I think Jose Ramirez just balls out.
Yeah. Again, no, I guess I had the Guardians in 3. I got to go Stephen Kwan. That base hit up the middle. It's going to be the most dramatic ending. I'm praying that keeping the ball, putting it in play, Sean, is the reason people realize, Sean, I can't speak anymore. I can't speak. To the fans at home, you know how I feel in my heart about putting the ball in play.
Yes.
Are the Royals in the playoffs this year?
The Royals. The Royals were one of the worst teams in baseball.
All right. They weren't putting the ball in play. Back in my day,
2014 or 15, they were.
back in my day, they were putting it in play. Putting it in play.
All right. Do you want to move on to the picks to click before you lose your
Yes,
mind?
I'm sorry. I had already lost it, but I'm here.
All right. So these are all centered around the wild card series, obviously. We already kind of answered this, but how many of the wild card series go the distance? Go full 3 games?
3.
You say 3? I actually also say 3. So, yeah. To go along with the question you just asked, who you think's going to ball out? How many hits does Jose Ramirez have in the wild card series?
Ooh. I think that one's going 3 games. I'm going to say he's getting 12 ABs. He's going to get 13. One of them is going to get 5 at bats in. I think he gets 5 hits.
5?
Yeah.
I'm going to go 6.
Okay.
6 hits. Next one we got, how many walks does Juan Soto draw in the series?
Oh, man. If that's going in 3 games, which I really think the Mets could get swept.
This podcast would be over. I think I would just like run in front of a train.
3 games, he's going to get 12 plate appearances. That's what you got to call him for Soto. You got to make sure you really let the people know.
Yeah.
I think he walks 4 times.
4 times. All right. I'm gonna go 3.
Okay.
And the last one we have, do we see a starting pitcher go 7 innings or more in any of these games?
Oh, that's a good one. That's crazy. That's a question. The wild who
And if so, how many? We'll add that onto there. We'll make it a two pointer.
Man, I'd love to say Manoa because he's a dog, but he also has control issues and he's not very efficient. I feel like he's probably gonna go 6. I could see Beaver going 7, but I think they're gonna touch him up. God, that's tough. Chris Bassett goes 7 innings pitched.
Okay, all right. Chris
Bassett. He's the guy somehow I trust the most in this postseason.
I like that.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. Well, I do think he goes 7 innings, but I think Nola goes 8, and I think Wheeler goes 7. That's
so you say 3 pitchers do that.
3 pitchers. I'm sorry. Yeah.
3 pitchers.
The most would be Nola with 8, if that's what you're doing.
Okay. Nola, I'll put Nola 8 innings pitched, and that'll be, if you get that right, that'll be an extra point.
Nice.
For me, I say I honestly, when I was putting this question together, I didn't have an answer for it, and I thought I'd have an answer by now. I still don't. I'm gonna say 1.
Okay.
I'm gonna say 1. I'm gonna say
You're gonna say Scherzer. You're gonna say Scherzer's got the dog in him. He's a puppy. He's a puppy.
1. I am gonna say Scherzer. You know what?
I knew it. You're wrong. I mean, he's gonna go 3 innings max.
He probably is, but
sorry. This is gonna be. I'm ready for playoff baseball, Sean. I am ready for playoff baseball.
You know, you're gonna have to, show me some tips because it's been 5-6 years since I've had to go through this, and I'm gonna have to relearn it. So, if I don't handle it as well as you, I will certainly try.
No, listen. Finding positive coping mechanisms is definitely difficult. I would say find a couch, position it 3 to 4 feet in front of your body, so that at big moments you can jump over it. That's been big for me in my career as a fan. Once you jump over the couch, when it really feels like you've moved on, either in good or bad times, and you've been a part of it.
Okay.
You've seen me, Superman fly over a couch before for a base hit up the middle.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we I'll hop on a little Instagram live or something.
Yeah.
If I'm able to put words together.
Again, Naomi Osaka. You come first. Mental health.
Yes. Maybe I'll do that.
People would love to see how you do, and I'll be calling you. I mean, I'm gonna reach out. I mean, I don't have to worry right now, thankfully.
Yeah.
I get to take a deep breath for the first series, and I'm hoping to God in the second series that I probably can't call you. It'll be a little bit too much. We might
at each other's throats.
I know. The next podcast will be pretty tough to discuss what happened.
Someone would be happy, and one of us would not be happy.
No, one of us would be pretty upset. But we'll see. I'd love a Mets Dodgers. I know you would too.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for tuning in and watching. This has been a little bit of a wild card preview. season recap. Thank you guys for staying tuned all season. We've really thankfully been able to be consistent, put out episodes, keep sticking with us. The postseason's going to be fun, and after the postseason, get ready for the best off season yet. It's just going to keep improving.
Absolutely.
Anything you want to say to the folks at home, Phil?
Make sure you put couches in front of you.
Make sure you put the couches in front of you. God bless your souls.